Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast, hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning in to the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, your host. My delightful side host, Sasha, is not with me today, but I am super excited to be joined by this guest that I met through a podcast group. Actually reached out, put a big post out there to talk about procrastination, and I had a whole bunch of people respond. And I was weeding through and doing a little vetting. When I had a conversation with Ann Marriott, I was like, oh boy, we can talk about so many other things. So Ann, welcome to the Be a Better Being podcast. Thank you for coming today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, Michelle. I'm very excited, and I'm really excited about this topic because, there's just so much depth here.
There sure is. So April is a month of awareness, as many are, and one of the things that you and I talked was that you were a bankruptcy trustee. And so we talked about like the financial literacy, financial fears. April is Financial Literacy Month here in the U.S., Mm-hmm. Before we dive into too much, let's give people a little background on you. I know someone's like, ooh, where's that accent from? So give us a little history on you, where you're from, and then we will go forward with this great conversation.
Absolutely. So I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada. So I would say I'm a little bit different because I'm an entrepreneur in an employee's body. So during the day, I work in the bankruptcy industry. I'm a financial counselor. People are coming to me because they're struggling with some kind of financial challenge in their life. I'm helping them navigate through that. And then, in my spare time, I call myself your spiritual hostess because I'm helping people tap into that deeper part inside of them that holds all the answers, all the wisdom, and all the brilliant light of who they are. And those two actually come together quite often because really it's helping people live their best life and, get out of their way, which is, of course, very in line with what we're talking about today.
It absolutely is. And for regular listeners, we've had guests on that talk about the spiritual side, tap into their true authentic self, try to bust through channels and blocks and things like that. So there might be some things that Ann and I talk about that you've already heard, but I guarantee you it's going to come from a different approach. Mm-hmm. I do want to touch on the whole financial piece of this because April in the US is also Stress Awareness Month. And financial stress is, I'm pretty sure still to this day, the number one stressor for individuals and couples. And clearly, when we are stressed, distressed, that is going to affect every other aspect of our well-being, of our mental health, our emotional health, our feelings of safety and security. And as somebody who's really seen people in probably the scariest situations for themselves, because if you're coming to somebody in bankruptcy, clearly that's a big deal, right? We've had significant financial issues. You see people who are stressed, who are afraid. And when we're living in that kind of emotion, we can't be our best selves. There's no way we can. So let's talk a little bit about what even got you into that industry and maybe how working with people through all of that did help you kind of springboard into that entrepreneurial piece.
Oh, yeah. Great question. So I kind of happened into the industry, actually. So I was kind of fresh out of high school within a couple of years, and I was looking for a career change. And I applied for a job that said insolvency receptionist. Well, I didn't know what insolvency meant. And so I looked it up in the dictionary and I thought that doesn't sound like very much fun because it was basically, not being in good financial space. And I applied anyway and I got the job. And, long story short, I've never looked back. It's just an amazing, rewarding career. But, people will often say, isn't it, negative and sad? And, I suppose in a sense I can see where you come from because people are coming to me really at their lowest of their low financially. But I've always been the type of person that is there to, lift you up and help you see the positive side of things. I'm your silver lining gal. And I've always brought that into what I do. So really, when people walk out of my office and say, I feel better. Actually, I was just having this conversation with someone the other day, and I said, you know what I'm hearing a lot, people saying to me, I feel lighter. And this is interesting to me because it's about that light inside of you, right? And it's shining it more brightly, and it's being more authentically you, and it's bringing more of you to your life, to the world. And I hear that in the bankruptcy industry a lot. I feel lighter, but to them, they just mean the stress has gone off their shoulders. But I know what's happening inside is that they're receiving permission to let go of the guilt, to let go of the stress, to let go of the anxiety, and they walk into my office and they leave it behind. I don't take it on. I know how not to do that. And so really both of us benefit from that exchange greatly.
I think that's so amazing that somebody with your demeanor and your persona and the light that you bring is in an industry like that, because I would venture to guess that there's not many, or maybe it's not, quite what you would picture as somebody who's a bankruptcy trustee. And yet, the ability to have empathy and compassion is so critical when somebody is at their lowest and probably most afraid time in life, at least when it comes to money. Let's face it, money matters, right?
Yes.
And then along with that, there is the shame and the guilt and the judgment and all of these things that encompass, somebody who has filed for bankruptcy. Let's talk a little bit about when that person first comes in, and then when you work with them, like how I would imagine they even physically look different as they go through the process with you. And for those of you listening, if you are like, what does this even have to do with anything? Right? No, we're not here to give you financial advice. That is not what this is about. This is about understanding how to work in the face of something that's really scary, to know that there is hope and that you will change, and to recognize that, yes, this is the lowest of the low, but the only place you can go is up. So let's just even talk, because I'm willing to bet, given the state of affairs currently as we're recording this, there are a lot of people who are very scared.
Oh my gosh.
Financial situation.
Yeah, so much. And I think there's a couple key things that you mentioned that I would pull out of there. First, someone coming in and how they're different when they leave. And, I've had people come in. I had one lady recently, and I mean, she literally just cried the entire time. And, and what I hear a lot, oh my God, so many places I want to go with this. So what I hear a lot is, I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry for crying. I celebrate crying. I love crying. Now, it took me a long time to get there, because I was the person who would cry in any situation and, apologize to my boss or my superior because it was, not seen as something you're supposed to do. But then I realized this is a release. If we don't release, we hold all that stuff inside of us. And so people come in and they cry and they apologize. And I say, that's okay. I want you to cry. I want you to release. That's why you're here. This is what the process is all about. And I think what people come in with that they leave with less of is guilt, shame, right? So you're coming in and you're feeling guilty and shameful that you and I'm using air quotes, got yourself into this situation, made mistakes. And I always find that fascinating, interesting, and completely untrue that, we have messed up because we made mistakes. That's what life's all about. I always say, you tell me where in the book of life it said you had to get it all right the first time. Doesn't happen with our health, doesn't happen with our relationships, doesn't happen with our job choices. It doesn't happen with our finances. It doesn't happen with anything. But oh my gosh, people are so hard on themselves when it comes to money and budgeting and finances. So I think what I see more often than not are people walking out with this permission to let go of some of the guilt, to let go of some of the stress, and really feeling like, you know what, life happens. This wasn't my fault. It's just I made choices. Here's the consequences. Now I need to get myself back on track. And that's what I'm there to help them do.
I love that. And, when it does come to the financial piece of it, for so many, so I teach corporate well-being and I do a little bit of financial fitness training. And again, it's not about how to save money, invest money. It is about your relationship with money. It is about identifying where are the gaps, right? Why am I afraid of not having enough? Or am I oblivious to what I have? And that's what could maybe eventually get me into some trouble, right? The unaware. We would like to just not know, just pretend, and it'll all be fine. And I always tell people that the situation is the situation. The only thing that's changing is your degree of knowledge. That's it. And so not being afraid of money, not being afraid to open the bills, not being afraid to make the hard choices of, you know what? Yeah, maybe I can't keep up with the neighbors. And it's okay for me to say, you know what? That's just not something I choose to spend my money on. Or it's just not wise. I don't have, the endless bank account that somebody else I might know has. And being comfortable making those financial choices based on your reality and your comfort zone. Is that something that you work with people as they're going through this process on?
Yeah, definitely. Relationship with money is so intriguing and important. And I mean, awareness is key. So, I get a lot of people with the, head in the sand, the ostrich method, I guess. They don't even open their mail. They don't know where their money's going. It always amazes me when I say, what is your income when we're going through a budget? And they say, I don't know, right? These are all clues to me that someone is like in denial and they're just not paying attention. And I completely agree with you that the first step is awareness always. And then we have this horribly dysfunctional relationship with money. And it goes back. I did a test one time. I was doing workshops. I had a lot of people and I would ask, money is ... And I would get them to answer. And I compiled all their answers. And it was fascinating. Money is evil, the root of all evil. Money is greed. Money is, some people would say safety, but it was really fascinating to hear all of the answers. Most of them were negative. Some of them were neutral, and only a few of them were positive. Well, how are we ever supposed to have a good relationship with money when we have these huge beliefs around money, and that's what we take with us? So yeah, I find that we really need to redefine our relationship with money. We need to love it. So I do this whole workshop on loving your money and expressing gratitude to all the different financial pieces of your life to shift that belief and shift that relationship.
I love that exercise. I hope all you listeners go back and answer the question, money is, what is it? And I agree. I have so many people in my world that think it's evil and it's bad. And I'm like, wow, how do you think we should live then? Yes, it is the system we have. It just is, right? We can't change it. So
And we put pressure on it. Sorry, I'm just going to jump in there because I want you to think about money relationship. You have a relationship with some other person. Let's make the other person money. That's your relationship. And then you're saying to that person, which is now money, you're not enough. You don't give me enough. You don't do enough for me. And you're saying all these negative things. So that's what we're doing with money all the time when we're living in lack and we're in fear and you have to part with it. And oh my gosh, I have to pay people and money just came in and then I had to spend it. And this is what we're saying constantly to this other partner who is money. So yeah, just to kind of reframe that a little bit, because I think that really consciously gets people thinking about every time you swipe your card, use your credit card, pay cash, pay debit, take money out of your account, be conscious of what you're saying.
I 100% agree with that. Very long ago, depending on, what it is, I shifted to I'm investing, right? I'm not spending money on, I'm investing in my business or in my health or in my happiness or in my relationship, right? I mean, it's an investment and we spend time, money, and energy. Those are the three things we spend. So am I investing wisely? Am I choosing how I spend these things wisely? Is it giving me value? Is it a necessity, right? There are some things that I quote unquote have to spend money on because that's the world we live in. Okay. Now, the degree of how much I spend is my choice. The quality of what I spend it on is based on how much do I have and am I willing to part with? So even saying things like, I can't afford it. No, I can. I actually have the money. That's just not really worth it to me to spend that much money on that. So changing those actual words, I think are so powerful because when you change the word, you change the energy. And when you change the energy, literally everything changes. Is even some of that kind of dialogue something that you work with people on kind of shifting the paradigm of it?
Totally, because I catch them saying it when they're with me. I just want to, when you said that, one of my favorite phrases that I picked up from a blog site, which I think is afford everything. You can afford anything. You just can't afford everything.
That's
right.
Perfect.
So it's all about choices. And then, yes, when people are in and I hear the phrases and the wording, I will say, okay, I'm going to stop you there. And I just want to bring this to your attention. And, if you're going to continue to use those words around your finances, your situation, and I talk a little bit about that and how it is bringing that energy in. So, I'm broke is a big one. I mean, I'm broke says to your, subconscious, I am broken. I mean, that's the worst statement you can say to yourself, right? And, and you're most of the time you're not broke. You're never broke. I mean, there are some people that obviously lack financially more than others. But, for example, in our, society in the Western world, we're rich beyond measure most of the time. I mean, I just say, walk around your house. I mean, you have abundance of stuff. Your fridge is full. There's hot water coming out of the tap. I mean, people have storage units full of stuff. We're so abundant. We have so much stuff. And so just, again, shifting that mentality, yeah. I mean, what you say and how you say it is so important. And again, first step is awareness, but the second step is shifting the energy, which is what you're talking about doing.
Yeah, and I think it's also really getting honest with where the internal beliefs have come from. And I used to do a lot of in-home personal training. Well, these people have plenty of money because they pay me to come to their house to make them exercise. It doesn't matter how much or how little you have. Your relationship with money is not defined by the number in the bank account. I have worked with people who have plenty of dollars in the bank account that still feel like they don't have enough. They're still afraid of not having enough. They still feel like any, issue, and they're going to be like right back, in the food line. Yeah. Because these beliefs and kind of internal narratives that we create have been established long ago. And through repetition and then through maybe other experiences, it can be really deeply rooted and embedded. And even though circumstances might be completely different, we're still going back to what we know. And that can go both ways. We're living in abundance. And then all of a sudden I lose a job, my economy crashes, my rental properties are empty, and I literally don't have anything coming in, but I'm still pretending and living as if I do, right? So it can all go both ways. And I think being very clear about reality is a place that would be helpful for people to get to.
Yeah, I love a couple things you said there. One, and I've noticed this with my clients, and I've done workshops at rehabilitation centers, and I've done them for government employees, right? So you see that spread. And quite honestly, it's those that have the most money that stop paying attention. The awareness isn't there. They go into autopilot. They spend they could save and do so much more with their money, but because it's not a stressor to them, they don't really pay attention to where it's going. So much gets wasted. The person living in poverty is the one that has the best money management skills, knows exactly where the money is going, and makes the best decisions. So I think that was an important piece to bring into that, or out of what you said as well. And, as I was talking about, some people have bigger financial concerns than others. Again, it's those that have more stuff that sometimes that is the most stressful. I have people come in and we're doing it's called a statement of affairs and a list of assets. And they go, I have nothing to put on here. And I said, anything worth having in life doesn't fit on this piece of paper. Right? I mean, everything that's worth something will never be listed here, but we get so caught up in having stuff. And it amazes me right now, the storage unit business is booming because we have so much stuff. Like, it's crazy. We have so much stuff. We're paying to keep our stuff. Like, it's nuts to me.
I totally agree. I'm in a place in life where I am really happy to be simplifying. I personally am incredibly grateful for the upbringing that my parents gave us when it came to money. We had very honest conversations about money when we were young, right? It wasn't you get whatever you want because so-and-so has it. My dad grew up on a chicken farm in upstate New York. My mom actually grew up a very fancy, wealthy girl in the Netherlands. And so you could not have been at two opposite ends of the spectrum when mom and dad met. And, as she decided to marry this GI, that's how they met. He was over there for the Air Force and they met. And, it took her a little bit to be adjusted to this new reality. But my dad was very firm. Like, he understood, you save first. Well, you spend necessities, then you save. And then, if there's something left over, we'll have a little fun with it. And those beliefs were instilled in us very, very early. And I'm really grateful for that, because it is only because of that that I was able to come out of the horrible financial crisis in the 2008, 9-ish here in the States relatively unscathed. Now, did I have to nearly deplete my savings? Of course I did. It's interesting to me when people are like, well, I can't afford it. I would have to tap into my savings. I'm like,
Right?
what do you think your savings are for?
I
To just save
know.
it forever and ever and ever? No, that is what it's. So again, it's just about the beliefs of what this is all supposed to do for you.
Yeah.
And
I just love that you said that. Again, I have to jump in. You get me so excited. I have to jump in. Sorry for interrupting you.
no, please.
Because I hear that all the time. It's like, and I have this questionnaire I go through and I say, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 is never, 5 is always. And I run through all these things. And one of them is set aside money for emergencies, and they'll rate themselves low, and then we'll talk about it. And they'll say, well, I do put money aside every month, but I have to use it. I'm like, great. That's what it's meant for. So, the reason you're putting it aside is so that you have it when you need it. If it's not enough, you work on more, but that's the whole purpose of saving. So I really like that you brought that up, because I find people, again, it's that misconception. I just have to save it and put it away and not touch it. But, money is called currency for a reason. It's currency. It flows, it moves. And I think the more we look at money that way and treat it as it's supposed to come in, it's supposed to go out. When you were talking a little while ago about, just the stuff we have to pay for, the bills and more bills, one of the things that I will do to kind of keep me in that mindset is whenever I pay for groceries, for example, or let's get into some tough ones, power bill, or how about income tax, is I'll think about the money flowing to the employees and to their families and to their grandchildren and feeding them and putting them through school. And I'm seeing the benefit of my money when it flows out, and I'm inviting it to flow back into me.
That is so beautiful. I am going to start using that. I am about ready to allow a whole bunch of my money to flow into others, like literally a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep that mantra and that mindset. As a self-employed person paying her own health insurance, I assume I am going to spend $10,000 every year, not on my premiums, on my max out of pocket. I assume I budget that $10,000 every year. That's my max, because that's what my max out of pocket is.
Yeah.
If there's a year that I don't have to do that, I feel like I made an additional 10,000. So when you understand your own realities, now somebody who has maybe employer-based insurance, well, you maybe don't have to budget that, right? And so that is where getting into the details matters. Like, details matter. And I find a lot of people, when they talk or think about money, they're just very vague, very ballpark-ish.
Yes.
And the details matter, because you have as much as you have, right?
Yeah.
And if we're going to ballpark it, boy, we're going to end up maybe in a little bit of an issue.
Yeah. Because awareness is key. You have to have the awareness. I have that conversation a lot with vehicle repairs and maintenance. So people want to pay off the car, which is great, but you're always going to have a car payment. So my car's been paid off for over a year, but $300 a month goes into an account every month for repairs and maintenance, because it's older and now I need more repairs and maintenance. And, again, in line with what you just said and that whole piece and ballparking it, I'll say, how much do you need for vehicle repairs and maintenance? And then they go through well, I need this and that. And I say, do you know? No. And I say, well, the next time you go into where you have your vehicle service, ask them for a statement of what you paid last year, and then divide that by 12 and then add, 10 to 20%, put that away each month. And people just look at me like, what is she talking about? Right? Like, that never even ever occurred to them. Like, those are the kinds of systems you have to have around money to reduce the stress and have you managing things when they come up, going with the flow, right? So you're not constantly hitting that brick wall.
Yeah. And I think it's so easy to fall into the trap that when things are great, they are always going to be great.
Yes.
And when things are horrible, they are never going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the idea of currency and its flow. And I'm telling you, when I went through that economic situation, and I mean, I kind of was complacent with my business. I had a whole bunch of eggs in one basket, maybe a couple eggs in a few other baskets, but a lot of my income was coming from 2 places. And when those 2 places no longer were able to give me income, it was like, oh, wow. But I got very complacent and comfortable because this is good. It will never end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a big wake up call. So as we are now probably or already are in another really scary financial situation, yes, I'm, 15 years removed from it as well, but also because I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Now I'm working and talking to people who this is their very first experience, because for them, for years, things have been amazing, like
Yeah.
amazing, right? They've had nothing but good. So it's the very first time where it's scary, where they're losing a job. They're seeing their retirements plummet and like, oh my gosh. Well, to me, that's fake money. It's not real money until I withdraw it. So I
Absolutely.
haven't lost anything at
Yeah.
all
I
because
love that mentality.
it's just there. But I don't know how it is in Canada, but here in the States, we don't learn these things. These things are not taught in school. We're not taught a budget. We're not taught like truly how money comes in and where it goes when it goes out. And, and we're not, addressing the relationship maybe that we have because of, generational influence or whatever that is. Is that something that y'all teach in Canada?
No, I think we're pretty messed up as a world that way, that we don't teach that. And, that's been a huge advocate piece, for me and the industry I'm in. And, we even tried to go in the schools at one point and get a course going. And, we even went to a couple of big credit card companies at one point and offered to do, this was so fascinating to me. We offered to do credit counseling for their clients so that they would be better clients, they would pay their bills. I'm laughing now because in retrospect, it was ridiculous, because better clients are ones that can't pay their bills and get into trouble and pay interest. And I was like, how naive were we in presenting it? Because they basically said, we don't care, like our loss ratio is so low. So no, our entire system is set up financially so we'll fail. That's my belief. And we play into that. And so we're never taught how to manage money. We're thrown out in the world. We're expected to figure out. And then on every corner, there's I call them the credit crack dealers of the world. So it's because really, to me, they're pushing credit on you constantly. They want to get you hooked on it. They want you to not be able to get out of it, get caught in the credit trap. And so combine this lack of learning how to manage money with this ease and availability and really market it pushed on us, live now, pay later, live beyond your means. It's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. And, I grew up, you went to a bank. There was no such thing as an ATM. You paid cash or you wrote a check. Even back then, I think credit cards, that was very new from my parents, right? And when you take out the physical nature of it, now it's not real. I don't know who this was, but I remember somebody telling me that their kids literally thought that money came out of a machine, right? We say, oh, it doesn't grow on trees, right? No, it comes out of a machine. We'll just go get some more.
Yeah.
Like and unfortunately, this is what people believe because they don't understand it. I believe, just like you, we are designed to fail. I think it is so similar, so many parallels with the healthcare industry. It is a disease care industry. It is to make us sick so that there's industry, just like the food industry, right?
Yep.
So, restaurant on every corner, right? Just like you, the credit will push this food on you super easy, super cheap. And look at you, can feed your family with no effort. No, boy, are you going to pay for that later? So this is why it's so important for people to educate themselves and truly understand it. The government is not there to help you. Big industry is not there to help you. Sorry.
Nope. There to make money.
You have to help yourself and educate and help others. So let's shift a little bit now into the spiritual side of what you do and how that works in with the people that you work with and how you get people maybe from their lowest low to probably feeling maybe in the best place they ever have once they've been lucky enough to work with you.
Yeah. And I think where that comes in, and, it's somewhere along the line, I kind of made the connection of how these two are married together. And I think where that comes in most often is, one, just really helping people shift energetically, like going to the core of the issue. So it's such a big question. I'm trying to break it down. So I'm going to start with awareness, because we said awareness is key. And so when we're talking about these financial issues and we get to that, place of awareness, that's when things start to unravel. And so from a spiritual standpoint, one of the things I think you and I were talking about is the chakra points, right? The different energy centers in the body and what happens in those. And if one gets stuck, you get stuck there. And so having an understanding of that when I'm talking to someone. So, if you're sitting across from me and we're just chatting, we're talking about finances, and I'm noticing that this is related to your relationship and it was related to your relationship last time and everything seems to be tied to relationships. It kind of gives me some indication of where, in the body, there might be some stuck energy. I don't necessarily, use the word chakras or energy healing in my office, but I start talking in a way that helps release some of those things so that it can unravel. That's the best way I can say it. It starts to unravel those big knots. And that's when people get the awareness. That's when the energy shifts come. That's when they start to get some momentum to start to want to move in the right way, in the right place. And that's when they take action or movement. And then, it snowballs in a positive way, right? Instead of a negative way. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. I am a big believer that everything is negative first because that's our survival. And it's up to us at the point, number one, to recognize it and then choose if we're willing to do the work to help shift it. Yes. Because negative thoughts and beliefs generate a negative kind of feeling, creates negative energy, it releases a negative outcome.
Yes.
And if at that point we can recognize the negativity, determine, is this necessary? Is it helpful? If it's not necessary or helpful, then okay, what work do I need to do to shift it and move forward and different? Then I feel my beliefs start to change and my energy start to change, and then the outcomes start to change.
Yeah.
Now, it's a process, of course, which I'm imagining just like in someone's health, in someone's finances, people want like this magical outcome overnight with no effort.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I love that you took such a big concept and really broke it down, because I do tend to get stuck in that visionary space. But, I'll give you a micro example. So I had a gal in my office and she just kept saying, I'm sorry. Always. And those people, right? I'm crying. I'm sorry. I'm not listening. I'm sorry. I'm busy. I'm sorry. Like everything was, I'm sorry. So finally I said to her, and I can kind of do this in, it's in a loving way, but I am a little bit firm. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop you right there. You're not allowed to say I'm sorry through the rest of the conversation. Well, most people don't bring it to your attention. If they don't bring it to your attention, it's not in your awareness. So then I brought it to her awareness. So we kept going on, and then she would say, I'm sorry. And I'm like, well, saying I'm sorry again. And she'd go, oh, I know, I'm sorry. I keep saying that. And so, so basically I brought it to her attention. I gave her permission to stop saying it. We talked about why she didn't need to be sorry, and we just kept moving on. But that's an example of, a little incident that starts to unravel it, that starts to shift it. Obviously, she's not going to walk into my office and permanently stop saying that and stop having regret. I mean, this is what I'm sorry is, right? It's regret and it's guilt. That's not going to be gone, but at least it came to her awareness. We'll have a few more interactions throughout her file, and I'll check in and see how she's doing with that. Now, I can only do so much of that as a trustee in bankruptcy, and I do what I can, but that's where my side business comes in, because that's what I help people do, is eliminate that stuff from their vocabulary, from their energy field, so they can really, truly live their best lives. I have way more flexibility, obviously, to do that.
Yeah, because clearly she is saying I'm sorry in every aspect of her life, not just in your office talking about her bankruptcy.
Exactly.
Right. So that is a deeply rooted, seated belief that she is wrong. She has done wrong. She should be guilty and hold on to shame and make sure everybody knows that she feels guilty and holds on to shame. Right.
Yes.
And I mean, overcoming and healing those beliefs, it is hard.
And
right?
how would you ever have healthy finances with those beliefs? Never. No.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just beautiful. I love what you do and how you help people. And obviously not just with their finances, right? You can help somebody change these beliefs about anything, because very often there's so much crossover.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
We really have
it's a web.
Really great, healthy relationship with money, but a horrible relationship with something else. Right. There's usually at least elements that are very, very similar, because it's all about your attitude and your mindset and your belief, all of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, this has been so great. I knew this would be a great conversation. I love it. Anything, we'll put all your info in the show notes for people to connect with you. But is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think we covered a lot. And, I suppose if I kind of summed up what we were talking about, really, it would be, don't be so damn hard on yourself, right? Because again, I think that's our biggest challenge, is that we're so hard on ourselves. And just recognize that, you were put on this earth to have an experience, to have some fun. And that means messing up. In fact, you really kind of have to mess up. And let me put it this way, because I think it's interesting when you think of it. Why would you come here on earth and have everything be perfect? And we think we want everything perfect, but if you think about that deeply enough and hard enough, we don't want everything to be perfect. There's no contrast. Where would be the excitement? Where would be the lessons? There has to be polar opposites, but our joy comes from our sadness. Our successes come from our failures. So I think that's what I really would want to leave people with. You're not a failure. You're not screwing up. You're making some mistakes. That's okay. It's human nature. Take it, learn from it, do better the next time. And it's better you make all your mistakes now and learn from them. So go make more, as opposed to, making them 20 years from now. So just go mess up a lot.
I love that. Well, I'm on a mission also to redefine perfect. When someone says, I'm not perfect, I'm like, wait, yes, you are. What do you mean?
Yeah.
But what does that even mean? Oh, you made a mistake. Well, that actually means you are perfect, because you wouldn't be a normal human if you didn't make so this whole perfect thing is even, and I was not afflicted with the perfectionism gene. So I've worked hard to understand and relate to my perfectionists in my life. And I do understand it. And I'm helping them break up with that belief and that trait, because man, I see how hard it is to be perfect. Yeah. And then how hard it is when things didn't go perfectly. And it's just so much wasted time and energy, just really wasted. There's one thing that I want you to mention is your Shine membership. Tell people a little bit about that before we officially wrap up.
Sure. Thank you. So Shine it's an acronym, and it stands for Shift Your Thinking, Honor Your Journey, Ignite Your Passion, Notice from a New Perspective, and Emerge a New Version of You. And it basically is a process that takes you from this place of low vibration, low energy, stuck mentality, and moves you away from that so that you're living every day really, with purpose. And I love what you said about perfectionism, because we all are created perfectly. I adore that. And so you release all this old baggage that there's no reason for you to carry that along with you, because it's way too heavy, and who would want to do that? Because life is about having fun and really stepping into the magnificence of who you are. And I do have a meditation on that. I'll make sure you get the link, and it's your Light's Journey meditation. So it actually takes you through your inner light, and it takes you through preconception right through to present day. And you notice when your light was bright, and you notice when it was dimmed, and it gives you a lot of insight into where the heaviness came in and where you got stuck. So again, awareness, you can see it, shine a light of consciousness on it, release it, clear it, live your best life.
That is beautiful. That is incredible. I can't wait to check that out for sure. Marianne, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us, with me, with our listeners. So appreciate you hopping over to the US to chat with us. And to everybody listening, you know that now you get to go and be a better being.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. This was my pleasure. And I hope we get to hang out again sometime. It's awesome.
Oh, we will. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.